The Albuquerque Backyard Refuge program supports communities in creating drought-tolerant habitat pockets in their yards, patios, and apartment balconies. From pollinator plants in pots to acreage in a pond, everyone can contribute. Converting land to wildlife habitat reduces water use and heat island effect, cooling our cities, and increases green space access, benefiting both people and wildlife. Thriving cities in the Salazar Center could play a critical role in helping us integrate significant youth leadership, a co-creation component that wouldn't be possible without these resources. It's our priority to address social and racial inequities within our communities as we continue in the footsteps of those who've been doing this work within our community for decades. Building gardens provides youth leadership opportunities and constant conversation with community leaders and our project partners.
One of the challenges facing our area is climate change. Our Rio Grande is the beloved heart of our city. As a direct result of a warming climate, we are losing our river and cottonwood bosque habitat. The migrating cranes who spend the winter with us are arriving now, and their nighttime river shelter is dry. Creating a mosaic of habitat across the city can give some of our smaller wildlife space and time to adapt.
These maps show that our frontline communities suffer a disproportionate amount of polluted air, water, and also lack green space within a 10-minute walk from most neighborhoods. The International District Healthy Communities Coalition and the Health Equity Council have been working to address inequities in our neighborhoods for over 10 years, yet inequities still exist. The map to the right is the CDC's Social Vulnerability Index, and that reports that within both the South Valley and the International District, 75% of community members live below the poverty line, and that's represented in that dark pink color, with over 41.5% of children living in poverty and experiencing hunger on a daily basis. It also shows that the ID has from 0 to less than 7% tree canopy. The map to the left shows that this abundance of heat retaining buildings and pavement and lack of shade and green spaces give the neighborhood and the district the highest heat island index in Bernalillo County, 14 degrees warmer at night than in the surrounding rural areas. This is a major challenge that our program addresses on a neighborhood scale. The concentration of impermeable surfaces also contributes significantly to stormwater runoff and sends pollution to the South Valley and downstream to Isla de Pueblo. Adding trees and habitat will lessen both of these effects.
Climate change is contributing to dwindling wildlife populations and increasing environmental injustice and inequities. With the Backyard Refuge program, we are taking the principles of sharing space with wildlife and adapting them to meet the needs of each community to address environmental challenges. By actively caring for all our neighbors, human and wild, we are making our city more resilient to climate change.
Our program is built for the community by the community. We'll hire individual youth corps members to work within their communities to build neighborhood pocket gardens with the support and training from our partners. This will give youth an opportunity to engage in community organizing in addition to planning and planting, preparing them for careers in conservation. Through community outreach and engagement with Isla de Pueblo residents, we can learn how to adapt the program to meet the needs and desires of the original inhabitants of the region. There is also the potential to introduce traditional ecological knowledge and expand the personal health and ecological benefits of the program.
This is the team we've built to implement this innovative program. Each organization has strong ties to one of the three communities of our focus areas. The Friends of Valle de Oro National Wildlife Refuge is the support organization for the first urban refuge in the Southwest. Our focus is community-based conservation, and we have worked with our neighbors in the South Valley to develop the first environmental and economic justice strategic plan for a public land site. Ancestral Lands Conservation Corps supports the personal and professional development of youth aged 17 to 25, with the goal of leading our nations back to ecological and cultural well-being. They will lead and support our youth corps and our focus communities. Health Equity Council is place-based in the International District and committed to social and environmental equity for all neighbors since 2015. Communities in the International District will co-create backyard, front yard, and pocket gardens to address heat island effect reduction and food inequities. We have over 50 active partners at all levels of government and public land managers, tribal governments, universities, community conservation, urban agricultural organizations, schools, and citizen science projects to provide expertise and support for our Youth Corps members. We are guided by the Environmental and Economic Justice Strategic Plan developed by Valle de Oro and the Friends of Valle de Oro in our community. Our partners are helping us meet our goal of expanding the ecological and geographical influence of Valle de Oro National Wildlife Refuge by doubling its 570 acres with a mosaic of habitat across the metro area with turf transformation, green stormwater infrastructure, and neighborhood open space. We're also beginning to build a mapping platform to tell our story of conservation and resilience efforts, using citizen science data to map observations of our wild neighbors and showing partner projects and environmental challenges. This will serve as a tool to find synergy and develop projects that increase habitat in places that best serve wildlife and people.
In each community, we're working with many layers of partnership to pair knowledge holders with community organizations, creating habitat for wildlife while supporting youth development and building healthy communities. Building backyard refuges with youth leadership connects communities and creates space for intergenerational conversation. Co-creating the space with their knowledge everyone is bringing to the garden allows us to adapt the program to meet their needs.
Our program impacts are many. We are building a community where all can thrive, neighborhood by neighborhood, yard by yard. Sharing space with our wild neighbors helps us accomplish this goal. With our roots in community, we can grow all of these benefits with your support. Thank you. We welcome your questions.
Thanks so much. That's great. We have about 8 or 9 minutes for questions. Evaluators, just jump on it.
Well, I will kick things off. I thought this was such a cool proposal. And I actually was really happy to hear about sort of the mapping piece, because I think what I'd like to hear a little more about is just sort of the collective, right? How have all of the projects all sort of lined up and linked together, and how have you been able to see broader impacts around all the different backyards you guys have been able to impact, or backyards, front yards, pocket parks?
Right. We are beginning our mapping project and are gathering layers from all of our partners right now, but and our program is young, but we are very excited because there's so many projects across the city where there is overlap, and we're trying to get funds to address those and leveraging partner resources. And so that is going to be a bigger force for our program as it grows.
And that, yeah, I had noted that the mapping piece, I think, it would be very interesting to see.
Yeah, we're very excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And so are our partners. Okay.
I can jump in if I can go next. I was looking at the budget and just curious, you had mapped out the bulk of the funding, I think over 60,000 going toward the stipends or for the Youth Corps.
Mm-hmm.
And then the partnership coordination. But I guess for the Youth Corps part, I'm curious, the placements looks like full-time, so 3-month term for 6 placements. Is that for like that period of time and that kind of structure? Is that how you've been doing your work so far? Like, is this a continuation of what you've been doing, or is this a new kind of approach that's part of this proposal?
It's a bit of a new approach. We have done this on a much smaller scale, both with interns from the Conservation Association and our UNM interns. And so this is the first time, if we're successful, this will be the first time we're able to get our youth corps members into a community and have them work together to find the site for the garden and implement it, and also do outreach in the community to get more participation on a yard level with front yard gardens and backyard refuges. And so, so we have succeeded in this model in the small scale with many in the international district pocket gardens, but this would be a major scaling effort for us. But with our partners, I'm not sure, has Chaz been able to join us?
Looks like it.
Oh, great. I'm sorry, I couldn't see him up there. Chaz, would you like to speak to what Ancestral Lands will bring to the program?
Yeah, absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. My apologies for being late, but what we're really excited to bring to this is we have deep connections in the South Valley and with the Pueblo of Isleta, and shifting that participation to community members, helping to expand backyard refuge participation. You know, the early adopters and early folks who joined this program were, I guess, your sort of conventional environmentalists, bird watchers, et cetera. And we're really excited to work with community to increase that participation, diversify that participation, have members of those communities working within community to not only diversify participation, but also bring, you know, those community perspectives, community priorities to help the program adapt and make itself more in line with the goals, the objectives, and the priorities of the community, so that our communities can see, we can see ourselves in this program as well. And so you talked about, you know, a lot of the budget is going towards the weekly stipends for our participants, and that's something that we think is really critical too, is to ensure that those corps members who are participating in this are receiving those decent living stipends. They'll be AmeriCorps members, so they're members of a national service program, but making those decent living stipends to support them in their well-being as well, recognizing that we need to make these types of programs more accessible, especially to our frontline communities, our underrepresented and underserved community members.
And I can speak up just a little bit too, just for a second, just to say that the gardens that have been created in the international district so far, like, I think that the community organizing and community partner component is so essential. Like, we already go door to door asking people, and me as a member, a board member of the IDHCC, and also the coordinator for the Health Equity Council. I'm also the facilitator of the Bernalillo County Urban Ag Project. I go door to door every month asking neighbors, like, would they like trees? Are they interested in a garden? I have a great list of folks who are ready, who are, you know, I guess the word you used for the last presentation was shovel ready. They're definitely shovel ready for their project, and excited. And these are partners, these neighbors, these are the bridges of connection that we think is super important, where this is really going to be a conversation between the youth who are working on these sites and then the neighbors that would like to be engaged and have these backyards or front yard gardens.
Do we have time for another question, Beth, or?
Absolutely. We have 2 minutes left.
Okay, great. Thanks. I guess I'm interested to know kind of the origins. You're saying you're going door to door and you're talking to the community, and I guess I'm curious how much of this work is born out of the community.
When I first started doing this work, and I'm sorry, Laurel, I just jumped in too. Is that okay? When I first started doing this work, I was living in the international district and had been doing some work. Had been doing some work with the jet fuel spill. There's a 24 million gallon jet fuel spill in our neighborhood, and I just started asking neighbors when I found out about the jet fuel spill of what they knew, like. is there anyone I could talk to? Like, I think one of my friends was having a lot of questions too about what was happening with her child. Was her child being affected by the water? We just had so many things going, questions about what was happening, because the way we heard about it was kind of like a passing by conversation that someone said. And so I'm just saying that when I first started doing this work, then I got connected to Enrique Cardiel. He was on this call a little bit earlier. He was watching, but he had to go to another meeting. And he's a point person for the International District Healthy Communities Coalition. When I began to get engaged with him, then I met all these community partners in the International District. And that's when we go door to door, it's neighbors going door to door. So I should say that just to make that clear. Yeah, it's not like it's some outside neighbor, like outside organization or whatever, but we know our neighbors and we go door to door and are asking them, would they like trees? Would they like resources? We have a farmer's market that happens in the International District too, where we actually help neighbors move their produce and offer it. Almost like we have a lot of like exchanges happening that aren't monetary necessarily, but we're providing food for the neighborhood too. So that's part of this project actually.